Hello, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me. It's been a while since I launched the stream, but welcome back to the Symphony. And a big thank you for your patience during our brief hiatus there. I was lucky enough, fortunate enough, blessed enough to be a special guest at PAX Australia in Melbourne, Australia. So Penny Arcade, if you're watching this, way to knock that convention out of the park. And a huge thank you to Chaosium for putting me up, believing me, and pushing me out the door. You guys are indeed the best part of waking up. So we're going to get right back into our content. Symphony Entertainment Gaming and Arts is my gaming company that focuses on horror systems, indie games, organic content, and player agency. And hi! Sorry, I'm not supposed to be responding to the chat, but I just did. Hi, Dr. Bones. In an attempt to bring a symphonic approach to horror role-playing. I am your host, Bridget Jeffries, but tonight I will not be serving as your keeper because this is our very first Halloween special, and we have actually brought on a special guest keeper, Keeper Rina Haenze. So thank you so much.
Hold for applause.
Round of applause. We're going to be running their second Miskatonic repository scenario. Let me see if I can actually pull the image up, unhide it. Nope, that didn't work.
Not really.
Not really? Hold on. I bet if I move overlay up, it'll work. Hey guys, welcome to me practicing streaming in real time. Yeah? You can see part of it. Apologies for it not being sexy. I'll put it somewhere where you can see it. But we're going to be running through their second Miskatonic repository scenario, Clack, which is currently available on the Miskatonic repository, which is Chaosium's hub for community-made content. Last announcement before I hand everything off to Rina, Symphony Entertainment does have a Patreon. So if you like this content and you would like us to help, or you would like to help us make more of it, please consider backing us on Patreon. That is going to be at patreon.com/Symphony Entertainment. For tonight's stream, here is your stream reminder. Content warnings have been reviewed with the cast and crew. They understand that the X card is in play. X's can be sent to Rina via private message or to Rina in the Zoom chat, or you can hit us individual. Again, X card is in play as a safety tool. No judgment passed, no questions asked. And without further ado, let me get my happy ass out of the way and hand it over to Rina!
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this stream. Thank you, Bridget, for letting me take over your Twitch for a bit. I don't know why you thought that was a good idea, but I'm going to take full advantage of it. I'm very much looking forward to running this scenario. First time it's been done live or as an actual play, so it has never been released before. So hopefully you will all enjoy it with this wonderful cast, which I am very, very, very excited to play with. It's going to be awesome. So content warnings for this scenario, just so y'all are aware, there is the potential for player versus player action, particularly violence. You've got your blood, your gore, your body horror, your probable homicide and death as you normally have in Call of Cthulhu. Other than that, there shouldn't be any major issues. I will warn you, there is reference to a pet death that happened off screen. So no danger to pets or anything in the game. Someone will just reference what happened, an NPC will reference what happened to a pet before the scenario started. And it's nothing too bloody or graphic. But just so you're aware, that is in there. But there shouldn't be anything else, hopefully, other than the general madness that my players bring to the table. So I'm very much looking forward to this scenario, but before we get running with Clack, let's introduce our players, our wonderful, wonderful players. So let's start with Perry. Introduce yourself, anything you have to plug.
Hello, everyone. I'm Perry Clark, licensed marriage and family therapist. When I'm not at my practice, Untangle and Grow Counseling, I also have a podcast called Untying Knots, Minds and Souls Untethered. This coming week, we will be having an episode coming out with associates of mine who wrote a book called The Ghost in the Maze, which is designed for kids and focusing on also diversity as well. It's an AI-generated children's book. The following week, I'll also have an interview with B. Dave Walters, noted author and DM from multiple games as well. So please check those out for this period.
Wonderful. Thank you, Perry. And Allie?
Hi, I'm Allie, and I play Katerina Bogdanovich over on the Old Ways podcast in the Vampire the Masquerade Chronicles. I'm playing Philomena Quinn.
And we have a whole ass Michael Diamond with us this evening.
Whose birthday it
Hey.
is, guys? It's Mike Diamond's
Yes,
birthday
everyone,
today,
happy
literally.
birthday to Mike.
Come on, get in. No.
Happy
hi.
birthday.
This is Mike, and I'm normally keeper of the old ways. I think at last check, still keeper of the old ways, but thank you for having me on stream and letting me join this fantastic group. This week, our special announcement is that we're releasing the first episode of a 3-part series of Carousel of Fears by Bridget Jeffries, who you may or may not know. This Electrum seller is sure to please. And if you're a fan of Call of Cthulhu, which hopefully you are, you might in the next few weeks begin to see some contest information for a very special product that's come out. So keep your eyes and ears and tentacles ready, because the Old Ways has a whole lot more coming soon.
And we have, finally, since Bridget's already introduced herself. Hello.
Hello.
I'm Bucho. I am a scenario goblin here at Symphony Entertainment. I like to jump on the stream whenever possible. Typically when alpacas are involved and become skin suits. DJ of 20 years, painter, writer. You can find my books on Amazon, and you can find my paintings like the one up behind me on my Instagram at The Real Pink Panther. So that's me. Let's lean the fuck into some cosmic chaos.
Yes, let's. So thanks,
Rina, Can
yes,
I jump in really fast?
Of course.
Hey,
Always.
so I'm a dumbass. I also forgot to tell you guys that Rina is donating a free copy of the scenario that we're playing right now. So
Yes.
if you would like a free copy of Clack, you do have to be a follower of the channel. All you have to do is in chat, hit the exclamation point Clack. That is CLACK, and that will enter you as a one-time drawing prize that we will draw at the end of the scenario after we can kind of take our toll on who all went insane or is still alive. But thank you, Rina, for giving away a free copy. We sincerely appreciate that. So, guys, you're going to want to do
Absolutely.
exclamation point Clack.
And that is all my wonderful cast. And just to remind y'all, I am Keeper Rina of the Old Ways podcast with Mike, Allie, and Bridget, where I run Vampire the Masquerade, Blood Moon Rising. Our finale is next week. So if you want to get caught up, now's a very good time. Allie and Mike are in that, and Bridget is joining us for season 2 as a full-time cast member. You can also find me on Ain't Slayed Nobody on the Y'all of Cthulhu main arc, along with Bridget as well. And you can find my very first scenario Saturday the 14th on Miskatonic Repository, which is 1 copy away from print on demand Electrum. Somebody please put me out of my misery. But this and Click Clack are included in the Halloween sale on drive-thru, so you can get it for a discount right now if you're interested. But you can also find all of my stuff on Discord. I love to chat with people. And you can find all of us on the Symphony server. So, without further ado, let us get into some shenanigans. It is Halloween night, 1920. It is a cold, drizzly night in New York City. It's very dark, very cloudy. Haven't even been able to see the moon for the most part. And you have all made your way separately to a grand old home. Looks to have been built in the colonial era. And it's owned by one Madame Mina, a renowned spiritualist from the last century. She's an elderly woman who was known for her seances, for her ability to summon spirits, and for spirit writing, along with her late husband, the British Penny Dreadful writer, Walter Vines. Walter has passed fairly recently, and Madame Mina has, within a month of his passing, come out of retirement, announcing that her beloved husband's spirit has taken possession of his beloved typewriter, and that he is giving her greater access to the world beyond and secrets that the dead know. And so she is, for a limited time only, offering sittings and seances to select clientele. The 5 of you have individually been hired by an investment banker by the name of Mr. Chandler. He is a fairly wealthy man. He's a little bit of a skeptic, but he recently lost his beloved only daughter. She was killed in a car accident, and he is desperate to contact her in any way. And so, he would like you to find out if Madame Mina is truly able to contact the spirits beyond, as she claims, or is she yet another one of the long list of frauds he's given money to and been deceived by? This is his last chance, and that is why he's put so much time and effort into speaking to people of various walks of life to ferret out the truth. So you have all been invited to this very select seance on this Halloween night. And currently, you are all standing around in the drawing room of Madame Mina's home. It is a cozy room with a fire blazing. There are bookcases lining the walls. There's antique furniture, very comfortable, reupholstered. And there is a typewriter on a table in the middle of this room, just in the center of all the seating. But you've been given drinks from Madame Mina's private stock. We are in the middle of Prohibition. However, if you already owned the alcohol, it didn't count. So you're perhaps enjoying some beverages you might not have obtained elsewhere. And there's an elderly couple sitting on the couch, talking to each other. Very loud voices. They can't seem to modulate. There is a young woman wearing very fancy, elegant flapper attire who is leaning against the fireplace, looking bored as she sips at her beverage. And the butler is standing and looming slightly at the door that you all came in. So, let us introduce our characters and what you're doing in this room at the moment. So why don't we start with our private detective, Perry? Tell us a bit about Casper.
Oh, Perry, we can't hear you, babe.
Gotta remember the mute. So,
but thank you for
Casper-
using mute.
So Casper Holloway is a linebacker build man, black man, bald head, beard like myself. His outfit shows a certain amount of, definitely spent some money on it, but not a lot. It's got a little threadbares and some points. He's standing, would be standing in a position to observe the entire room as much as possible. So he's probably near the butler. So if the butler is, let's say, 5'10", I'm standing about 5'3", looming over him as I survey the room and the way everyone is standing around and taking their space, trying to figure out who's here for what's their game. Everyone's here probably because of some sort of money or some belief they have they need to connect with.
Wonderful. And Philomena, what are you doing, and what do you look like?
So I have, it's like a short bob, straight hair, strawberry blonde, and I am wearing a cloak and a clergy collar, because I am a member of the church. And I have a Bible in my hands, and I am waiting to banish this spiritual nonsense.
Wonderful. I'm sure that's going to go very, very well for you, Pastor. And our professor?
Yes, Professor Alexander Harkness, just from Arkham down the road. He's likely in a chair. He's probably enjoying a full pipe, and likely, we'll say, some pre-prohibition whiskey, because the stuff nowadays, if you haven't gotten it on already secured, it's a little thin to his liking. And I think he likely too is doing a little bit of observation of the typewriter and the people in the room, but he's a little quieter. Probably keeps to himself. Hasn't likely said anything to anyone yet, and he's very interested to see what the madam has in mind.
Wonderful. And Gerald?
Gerald is sitting on one of the couches. I believe he would be drinking a brandy. He's kind of a smaller man, dressed a little more casually than normal. He's not technically working right now, but like maybe he is. As he sips on the brandy, he's vacillating between staring at the women in the room and thinking about the things that have happened over the last few weeks. But he's definitely getting pulled towards the women, even the clergy. Several of his thoughts go to very, very bad places.
He's thinking about going to confession, is he?
Sure.
Sinner.
We can call it confession if you'd like. Yeah. But yeah, he's on the couch, not really talking to anybody, just kind of viewing the room and watching people.
And last but not least, Holiday.
Yeah, when Dr. Holiday Waite walks into the room, all of her New York attitude walks in with her, which is in stark contrast to the Southern accent that she speaks with, because she's going to be very intentional about making space for herself. This is obviously a Black woman who is educated and has been used to the struggle and has turned that corner where it's like, you know what, fuck you. You're going to tolerate me. I don't care how you feel about it. So it's not that she bursts into the room, but there's a presence. There's a New York presence that comes with her. And she's going to be very intentional about greeting every single person individually as she walks into the room with, the standard formalities. Good evening. Oh, it's a pleasure to see you again. Things of that nature. She is wearing a white button-down shirt with the big, floofy collar and just a pencil thin wool skirt, and then heels that probably are like overly thick and are about this tall. So very modest looking. And after she does her round, she's going to decline all alcohol. She is going to sit directly beside that typewriter and start reviewing notes out of a file. And Rina, your call if you're allowing me to do this, but she would have liked to put together a case file on that daughter with just name things that she enjoyed, appearance, things of that nature, relationship with the father prior to getting here. So she would like to just like review herself on those notes about that dead girl.
Absolutely. So you have a folder on Joe, who is the deceased daughter. You interviewed Mr. Chandler pretty thoroughly, got a long list of all her likes and dislikes, so that if her spirit manifests, you'll know what questions to ask. So you can definitely be reviewing that at the moment. So you're all looking around the room, maybe looking at the typewriter. It's a fairly old, beat up looking typewriter, although it is a newer edition, right, within the last 6 or 7 years, but it looks like it's been through the ringer. It's battered, it's bent. Some of the keys look like they need replacing, but they haven't been. It's sitting there just on this table alone. A quick cursory glance says there's no noticeable strings or anything of that sort, though perhaps you might want to find a way to do a more surreptitious perhaps examination under the table or look for any other tricks of the spiritualist trade. But at first glance, none of you have seen anything too fraudulent, let's say. So you hear the elderly couple sitting on the couch talking to each other, and the elderly man has introduced himself as Dr. Matt. He's a retired physician who is out here just living a quiet life just outside the city with his wife Penelope. And then Penelope jumps in and says, yes, do you all think this is real? I do so hope it's real. Matt, you promised me it was real. Oh, I do have to know about my dear Al. Do you think Al's spirit will be here tonight? And she's looking around, blinking at all of you owlishly behind her super thick glasses. It is real, right?
Well, I would say maybe don't talk too much about specifics.
Specific what?
Details about your son.
No. Al's my dog.
Oh
You were
God.
such the most adorable little poodle you ever did see, and I'm just so absolutely devastated. And she just starts sobbing into a handkerchief.
I understand. Very sad. Yes, very sad. Very sad. Okay. It still stands. Don't say it's your dog. Just say Al and see if she is able to discern that. If she can't tell it's a dog, I mean, you had me fooled. Let's be honest.
And Dr. Matt leans forward, puffing on a pipe. Says, "Oh, that's a wonderful, wonderful idea. Yes, yes. I hadn't even considered that, but you're quite right, young man. What a very astute mind you've got there. Thank you for looking after us."
I've seen a few of these before, so some of them are harder to spot, but the ones who are the fakest are the ones who will take what you have said and make you believe that it's new information, if that makes sense.
Yes, yes. Like the patients. I had this one patient who came in, and he just trails off into this long-winded story about a patient he had who would wait until he described something and then would decide she had those symptoms. And he's just talking your ear off.
That's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy. Oh my God, that's crazy.
And the young woman at the fireplace just kind of rolls her eyes, and she takes a drink, and she looks over at you, Philomena, and she just says, "Oh, this is hardly the kind of place I'd expect to find you, Pastor."
Well, it's hardly the kind of place that anyone should be, don't you agree?
Oop.
Well, I'm just hoping for some excitement personally. She takes another drink. It's just so boring.
Well then, my child, perhaps you should attend church where it is rarely boring.
I tried, but you folks are just so judgmental. And she looks right at you in the eyes. She reaches into her handbag and she pulls out a little packet of white powder, and she pinches it and sniffs it up her nose. So judgmental.
I'm just going to hold my Bible closer to me and praise the Lord.
Oh, praise someone, that's for sure.
Thank God somebody brought the blow.
Someone brought the fun. So, what are the rest of you doing while these conversations are happening? So, the detective, professor, like, what are you all doing at this moment?
I think the professor feels it's a rather interesting. Everybody else, for the most part, has stuck to the outside, but this one woman came in and sort of authoritatively stalked directly to a seat by the typewriter and sat down and begun going through, I don't know, her receipts, whatnot, of information that she has. And so I think the professor would get up out of his chair after finishing his pipe and just very calmly and carefully walk over to her and say, excuse me, miss.
And as you're approaching, her eyes are currently watching this conversation that Dr. Matt is having, but she's wondering how much the butler is eavesdropping on these following conversations, because that could be an easily feedback to, help hype up the mystery, but also like to really pull the bag out from everyone. So she's looking at that butler and she's, focusing between the butler and Penelope and the butler. And when Alexander approaches, she staggers for a moment and she actually stands up to meet you and extends a hand. Good evening.
He probably looks probably a little socially uncomfortable, and he reaches out and takes your hand. So you seem to have quite a bit of paperwork.
Oh, just a bit. Some initial research I had before coming.
Oh, fantastic. I'm somewhat of a researcher myself.
Is that so?
I'm very much interested in seeing if what is said about the typewriter is true. What
May
do you
I
think?
have your name again?
Oh, apologies. Alexander Harkness. Professor Alexander Harkness.
That's right. You're a professor from, and she's genuinely like rolling through a Rolodex in her head and just can't seem to find the university.
Arkham.
That's right. It is a pleasure to meet you. Dr. Holliday Waite again.
Oh, well, a pleasure to meet you, Doctor. He gives you a pretty broad smile.
Aw, I like big smiles. Those are very disarming. Keeper, I know we were hired by Mr. Chandler. Do we know that other people were hired by him as well?
You do not.
Okay, so, no, I don't know whether this is real or not, but a client hired me to come and do some investigation, so that's why I'm here.
He slowly nods. A worthy investigation, I think.
One more time, please.
A worthy investigation, I think.
So, Holiday, why don't you give me a spot hidden roll? Because you said you were keeping an eye on the butler as well to see if he's eavesdropping.
Please.
So let's see what you notice. And Professor, you can as well, if you're...
Sure.
She might have been a little too disarmed by that smile. That is an 82 over 55.
Okay, yeah, so you got completely distracted when the professor came up and you were trying to figure out if you knew him or where you knew him from, if you did, and you don't notice.
Yeah, the professor has a 46 under 55 for his spot hidden.
Yes.
Okay, so Professor, as you're talking to Dr. Waite here, you notice that the butler, who's this very big, bulky, imposing bald man, has turned his body slightly so that his left ear is more towards the room. He appears to be looking at the door, but you can tell just from his body language, especially because you're used to having to pay more attention to body language, right, to figure out what people are saying, that he's definitely listening.
I look him dead in the eyes and wink.
Oh.
He stares back at you impassively. So, Casper, what are you doing while these conversations are happening? You've got the pastor who's looking a little askance at the young socialite. You've got the old man who's talking the ear off of another younger man at the couch. What are you doing at this moment?
So let's see here. Going around the room, the young socialite must watch her hands. Likely is going to be have a penchant for stealing if she's just hunting for things to keep herself busy. The priest, got to watch what they're going to be saying. If they start, most likely going to be tearing this apart because it's going to fit with their need. If they switch, then that's a suggestion that there is definitely a belief that's going on with her. The young lady, the sister who walked in, definitely got something she's going to try to prove. She's definitely got that paperwork behind her to do this. The Gerald, I've read about his work. He's definitely assessing and trying to pump for information. The couple, they're desperate. They're desperate. He's trying to keep his wife happy. That's why he's here. The professor, a little harder to read, but then again, that's what expected with a stoic professor. He doesn't want to give his students away, but obviously got his career built around trying to find out this stuff is real. So he's another one. If he's got confirmation, this leads towards it. As for the butler, yeah, he's the inside man. So the question being is, how much do I need to pay him to basically talk?
Are you trying to find that out?
Right now I'm gauging those. I want to take a moment where I can get the butler alone for that.
Well, he's just standing in the corner, but you'd notice the professor was looking at him. You just noticed him slightly turn his head, but you could probably maybe ask him for a drink or ask him for something else and make it look like you're just having normal conversation. He is a servant after all.
Actually, what else, dude, could just show me where the bathroom is.
All right. So you walk up to the butler. He's very stiff and formal. His suit looks slightly too tight for him. He's very big, but he looks at you and he says impassively, "May I help you, sir?"
Yeah, could you show me where the little boy's room is?
You wish to find the water closet, sir?
Yes, please.
And he extends a hand out towards the door and says, "We only have a few minutes before Madame Mina arrives." But he opens the door for you and leads you out into the hallway.
Okay, once the door is closed and we're slightly away from the door of the parlor room, it's like, so, my man, thank you for showing me where the water closet is. And I'm just wondering, and I'll pull out $2. And it's like, I want you to give me a appraisal on everybody that's here in the room and just what your mistress is like. I'll just sort of hold it up to him.
Give me a persuade roll with a bonus die because you're offering money.
Oh shit.
Wow.
Oh,
Okay, with a
shit.
critical, with a 1,
Oh, damn.
he looks down at you and his shoulders relax slightly. He looks up and down the hallway. You can see there's a long winding flight of stairs. He kind of tilts his head and he checks and he lowers his voice, which is very hard for him to do as a very big man, but he says, well, he discreetly takes the money and pockets it. This is, of course, you know, the first public sitting that Madame Mina has held since the master passed away. A few private ones, but this is the first public one. We are very anxious, sir, for it to go well.
How did those private ones go? And I'll pull out another $1.
Discreet take. Slide it into the pocket. Well, sir, I'm not allowed in the room during a sitting, but we have a way of hearing things, as you know. And all of the private clients have been very satisfied. And most of them leave crying, but usually happy tears. Except for the one woman who found out from beyond that her husband had been cheating on her with the gardener.
Oop.
That was not very happy.
Hope the gardener was fun. And I'll pull out one more $1. So how's your mistress? I'm aware of everyone who's in downstairs right now.
Takes the dollar bill, pockets it. Madame Mina is not aware of the requests of most of the people who come in. She accepts referrals, but she insists on not doing any research or knowing who people are before they arrive for a sitting, so she cannot be accused of, and he makes direct eye contact with you, of fraudulent behavior, sir.
Smart. I bet you keep your own records, don't you?
I have been known.
So at the end of this, depending on things go, and I'll pull out $2 more, I'd like to see those notes.
I'm sure that can be arranged, sir.
Good
and he
man.
pockets them.
And there'll be another 3 if I get those notes at the end of this. Consider this the payment up front.
Thank you, sir. Your generosity is most appreciated in these trying times.
Of course.
And he smiles ever so slightly, just a slight tick of the corners of his mouth. It's so small, you barely even notice it's there before he returns to his normal impassive face. Would you like to return to the sitting room, sir? The seance will begin shortly.
Let me just wash my hands and I'll be in there a second.
All right, so he shows you where the washroom is so that you can wash your hands and returns you to the room. So the rest of you, as you're waiting, this socialite has just been kind of floating around, like almost literally floating the way her clothes are moving. She's a little bit in a daze looking around at things, but her eyes are poof, very dilated. And she's running her hand along the bookcase. Anyone ever actually read any of this stuff? I know my dad said it was super popular when he was over there, but it all looks kind of trashy. And she looks around at all of you, just tilting her head. Penny Dreadfuls, what a silly name.
I smirk. With the butler out of the room and opportunity available, I'd like to get now a much closer look at the typewriter.
Excellent. So you can give me a roll here. What specifically are you looking for? Or are you just doing a once over kind of thing?
Oh, no. So I'm once over probably would be something he'd have done at range, but now it's closer. I'm looking for anything specific on the keys themselves, on the mechanicals. With the butler out of the room, there's some free reign here, so I don't feel as restrained. And if this thing can assist with people speaking from beyond, I'm certain that there are many professors at Arkham that would be very interested in it.
Mhm.
My friend Henry, I'm sure, is amongst them.
Oh, absolutely. So, why don't you give me a spot hidden roll as you're looking around this typewriter? Like, are you looking under the table? Are you checking for any of these
So I
little
think,
devices and things?
yeah, I think what I want to do is take a diagonal look at it back through the mechanics, right? So I
Mhm.
want to be able to see the mechanics through the back of the typewriter to see if there's anything. I think strange is too broad of a word, so I will just say if there is anything which might assist in the gathering of information from spirits.
Okay. So, give me a spot hidden roll, and then we'll see what you get. What are the rest of you doing while this is going on? You
Well,
see the
at this
professor just kind of get down and start examining the typewriter.
Oh, she's so amused by that. I mean, at some point, she's probably just going to like throw her hip against the table and like play defense, where she's just looking around to make sure no one is going to intercept this. And she's just going to like speak down, like, "You're not being shy about this at all, are you?"
There are truths in this world we must find, and we cannot allow it to be ourselves to be bottled from missing them.
Well, I just find it fascinating. This Bambi who's touching everything on the walls, she's repulsive to me. However, you're touching something that doesn't belong to you, and I am more curious than I've been all night.
Well, I'm certain the madam will find my investigations improper, but I couldn't possibly resist.
And she'll just like throw her hip into the table to get a little bit more comfortable and just purely running defense to make sure no one comes up and bothers him.
I'm going to see people congregating at the table, and I think, well, this is what we're here for. See what they're talking about. Get some information, converse.
Okay, so you get up midstream of consciousness flow from Dr. Matt.
Yeah, I
And
definitely detach myself from the conversation.
Yes.
Like, in the most awkward of ways, like, sorry, I'll be back.
and you get up and go, and he doesn't look upset or anything. He's probably used to people just walking away mid-sentence from him at this point. But Penelope is pulling on his arm, going, "Oh, I hope they don't mess with anything that could prevent Al from speaking to us." And she's looking at the typewriter wide-eyed. She's like, "It's all right, dear. I'm sure they're fine." But he's trying to calm her down, and she's getting a little bit agitated. Pastor Philomena, what are you doing?
Fine, no one can hear me.
Thank you for using mute.
Realistically, I am muttering phrases from the Bible under my breath about sinners and about demons and about how none of you are going to be going to heaven and unto God himself.
Yeah, so you hear Philomena muttering verses from when Christ cast the demons out of the possessed man and cast them into the pigs. And you're just, the socialite is just rolling her eyes. She's pulled a little book off the shelf now. It's got a very lurid cover. She's just flipping through it, going, "Who invited her?" But while that's going on, Professor, how did you do on
I
your
succeeded
spot hidden?
on the dot, 55 out of 55.
Fantastic. So with a regular success, you're looking through the typewriter and you don't find any strings. You don't find any bits of mechanical doodads that shouldn't be there, like you've seen on faked seances before. There's nothing of that sort here. It just appears to be a well-used, battered typewriter.
I will turn my head to Dr. Waite and say, there's no chicanery here. It's all as intended.
Speaking of intentions, don't you find it funny if this is the typewriter that she would just leave it out unsupervised on display like this?
Well, if the typewriter is mundane, is the user the mystic?
Just looking down at Alexander, he's looked under, over, touched it, felt it, all that. Has he actually played with any of the keys? Has he typed anything out?
He has not.
Is there paper in the typewriter?
There is. Blank piece of paper.
So she will do that thing where, like, you feed the paper in and make sure it's aligned, and then she'll look down to you, Alexander, or up if you stood up, and it's like, "Are you feeling brave?"
What should you type?
Oh, I don't know if bravery is what is required. Force of will, perhaps.
And do you possess that force of will? And she's looking at you, looking at the keys, looking at you, looking at the keys, and it's a playful challenge, but she's also being dead serious.
I think the professor is likely going to he's likely going to continue to meet, like, every time her eyes come back up to him, his grin gets larger. And I think that what Professor Harkness wants to do is sort of run out the clock on Dr. Waite. um and that's it's because what he wants is to see the typewriter used unfettered by someone else.
Okay.
And so if the smile gets too big where it no longer fits his face, he'll eventually demur a little bit and say, Dr. Waite, why don't we pause long enough for it to be used as it's intended, and after that allow us to gather some empirical data.
She'll raise an eyebrow and, like, playfully roll her eyes, conceding to the fact that she's not going to push this any further. But you can see that disappointment is playing, like, right on her lips and her shoulders. She really wanted you to push a key. She's not doing it, but she really wanted you to push a key.
Gerald is seeing the power play out, and
Yeah!
he's like, I do not want any of that. I'm good. But that's going to be fun to watch. And he's going to step back from the table and just watch them.
I guess, Keeper, I would ask, does it
Mhm.
feel like it's been a long time since the butler left with that man?
It's been about 5 minutes.
I make a mental note of it, and then I'll find a seat closer, near Dr. Waite, but not that I wouldn't be able to perceive the rest of the room.
Okay. So, Casper, you're led back into the room by the butler, who is all proper and correct. And he stands again in the corner. He glances over at the socialite, who's now pulled out a second book, leaving the first one on the floor, and is flipping through it. You can see just a slight crease of irritation on his forehead, just ever so slightly, and then it's gone. Miss, would you mind returning the master's works to the original position? And she looks at him and goes, why? He has no response to that. And as you're all standing around after he's come in, he's shut the door, you start to feel the room getting cold. There's a large fire blazing in the fireplace, but you feel cold.
There's a good reason why I keep my hat on even indoors.
Right.
Yes. Gotta protect that bald dome of yours. And as you're feeling the slight chill, this dip in the room, and Professor and Dr. Waite, both of you being students of the occult, you would know this without rolling. This is a common thing that occurs, right? A drop in temperature when spirits or the other realm is getting closer. Pastor, this is a little disconcerting for you. This kind of goosebump, almost cold, brushing across your skin. And then the fireplace goes dark. There's just like a and there's no fire in the fireplace anymore. And as your eyes sort of blink and adjust to the darkness in the room, you hear a thank you all for coming. And there's a soft glow now in the room from these low lights set around the room, these low gas lights. And you see an older woman standing in front of you. You did not hear her come in. You did not see her come in. She's wearing a Victorian style black dress, a morning dress, the kind that the queen herself wore when she was in mourning for her husband, with white lace at the cuffs. She's wearing a veil, long black veil over her face. And she's standing there very primly, but looking at all of you in this dark room with the soft glow of the lights around you. I am Madame Mina. Thank you for coming.
I think at this point, Gerald would be wearing most of his brandy because when the fireplace went out, he would have freaked out and like spilled it on himself. So he's just, yeah, nice to meet you too. Could you maybe let somebody know next time
No, what, sir?
that you have arrived? I mean, it was a little sudden. It's a nice trick. It's effective. Uh, but you know,
I go where the spirits lead me. And as she moves, almost floating, like in this big black dress and the veil, over to a seat right in front of the typewriter where the keys are, she's not close enough to touch it if she had to stretch out her hands, but she's directly facing it. And so all of you are in this kind of circle. If you look around, you notice the butler isn't there. You did not hear him leave either.
Interesting.
I'd definitely be looking around for that.
Yeah, you do not see the butler anywhere.
He's off on holiday. $5 he's made in the past 15 minutes. He's gone.
It's more like 7.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Hey, most of it's Mr. Charles' money, not mine.
He took the midnight train going anywhere. So he's just gone. Madame Mina is there. You did not hear a door open. You did not hear a door close. It's just quiet in here. And the madam doesn't say anything. It's like she's letting the atmosphere build up a little bit in this colder room. She's looking at all of you through the veil. You haven't seen her face, just the veil.
I'm going to break the tension with a match and light my pipe again. Blow a big cloud of pipe smoke into the air.
Hey, the smoke floats up into the air, and give me a spot hidden. Everyone who can see this.
Professor's getting a spot hidden workout.
Everyone can make this roll. Yeah.
Success. Ooh, we have an extreme.
Ooh, we got an extreme from Gerald here. Gerald was keeping an eye on the professor and the doctor, so that makes sense.
very observant.
Yes.
Dr. Holiday with a hard success.
All right.
I'll be your Huckleberry.
All right, so Pastor, you didn't really see anything.
I didn't see a thing.
So the pastor is kind of looking around, I think, probably trying to figure out where the cold is coming from and why it's so dark in here, and doesn't really notice the smoke.
Oh, and completely muttering under my breath as well.
Yes, very much muttering a bunch of invective verses under her breath. So the rest of you notice the smoke that comes out of the professor's pipe. It moves in the direction of the typewriter.
Oh.
So even though with a pipe it should go straight up, it's moving towards the typewriter, like it's being drawn in. And Gerald, with your extreme, you think you see the suggestion of faces moving in the smoke.
Oof.
And one of them is looking at you with these wide, staring, smoky eyes as they float into the typewriter.
How close am I to this smoke trail, do you think?
How close to the typewriter did you sit?
I would say, I'd be around the table, I guess.
Okay, so if you're sitting close to the table, you're probably close enough you could reach out. If you leaned over, reach out and touch the table that has the typewriter on it.
I think if I see the faces, what I would do is I would try to step forward and blow through them. Like, I recognize that something is happening here, but like that would weird me out, and like in order to no, that's a no thank you. I will try to blow the smoke and dissipate it.
Okay, so you get a bit closer to it, and as you lean in closer, the face sort of passes over your face, this smoke. You're hit with the smell of the professor's tobacco, but you also feel cold as this face floats through you and into the typewriter. And I'd like a sanity roll, please.
Whoop.
Sure.
Sometimes doing well on spot hiddens isn't the best thing.
Facts.
There we go. Success.
Okay, so no sand loss for that. It's just, it's weird. Maybe it's the alcohol. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just cold because of all the alcohol soaking my shirt right now. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's it.
Mhm.
And you're a little annoyed because it's alcohol you didn't get to drink, so
Yeah, and now I'm going to smell like it. So if I get pulled over, whatever.
So-
I'm here.
as this is happening, Pastor Quinn, you feel someone looking at you. And you look up and you see Madame Mina's head through this heavy black veil has turned to look at you. You can't see her eyes, but you can feel her stare. She says, Pastor Quinn, what can we do for you this evening?
I am here to observe, for when someone tells you to consult mediums and spiritualists who whisper and mutter, should not a people inquire of a god? Why consult of the dead on behalf of the living?
Well, don't you think that God himself could allow closure for those who never got it? Would he not allow his faithful servants to see those they love, to be told there is another side? Isn't that the fulfillment of your faith? Knowing
But-
that there is truly, and we can prove, life
But-
beyond.
But this kind can only come out through prayer.
Really?
Yes.
I can't remember a verse that says that.
Oop.
I mean, technically I have it handy because I'm writing stuff down.
Well, she's looking at you. You can almost feel like she's challenging you.
Mark 29 or Mark 9:29.
I don't know. Good verse, but I think it's a little limited. And she smiles at you, and you can feel her gaze drifting away to the rest. And then Penelope, the older lady, is, "Oh, madam, could you please contact my dear beloved Alpha? I have to know. I've been waiting for so long to know." And Dr. Matt's just patting her arm gently. Says, "It's all right, dear. But I have to know. I have to know." And Madame Mina just sort of smiles. You can feel the warmth of it. It's a genuine warm smile through the room. "Yes, I think perhaps we should start. It's best to finish these things before midnight, you know. It is," and she looks at you, Pastor, "All Hallows Eve, when the veil between our world and the next is at its thinnest, when the spirits can more freely walk this plane and speak to us, manifest with us. It's best that we allow them to do so before the Saints' Day begins." And she looks at all of you. "Are you ready?"
Indeed, madam.
Just step a little closer.
"We must all be seated." And she looks at the socialite, who just kind of rolls her eyes. "Fine, I was getting tired anyway."
Oh, I hate her so much. I really do. I hate that
And
NPC.
She just sort of drapes herself over a chair. She's got one leg dangling over the arm of the chair, and she's looking very bored. And she looks at you, Pastor. "Please have a seat."
Gerald's going to pull out 2 chairs for women on either side of him.
Yeah, I'm gonna go sit as far away from the socialite as I can.
Okay, so you sit down next to the journalist, to Gerald here. So you're on one side of Gerald, and then you've got everyone else around the circle. She says, "All right, so Let's begin with the easy things, shall we? All right.
Be alert and of a sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls like a roaring lion for someone to devour.
She makes eye contact with you again, Pastor. I think if anyone's devoured tonight, it might be you.
And I have the grace of God.
Do you? And she just pulls up the veil and pulls it back over her head so you can see her face now. She's looks to be in her 80s, fairly well kept for such an old woman. Looks very much like a grandmother, but a more New York high society sort of grandmother. So if you think the Countess of Grantham from Downton Abbey, that's kind of the vibe that she gives off. But she's got a very pleasant sort of smile on her face as she's looking at all of you. And she says, well, let's begin with the easy things. Then, there's no need to call on Walter for Al, I think. And she looks at Penelope. Says, let us all join hands. She holds out her hands.
I'm seated on the couch next to the couple because it's the biggest place that probably can accommodate me. So I'm taking her little dainty little hand in one hand, and I think the professor is on my other side.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly.
Yeah, I don't know who I've got on either side of me, but I'm grabbing their hands.
You've got the pastor on one side, and you've got the madam on the other, and then on the other side of the madam is Holiday, and then Nick, the socialite, and Professor all joining hands. So it is very important. You must remember, do not break the circle. In order to properly channel the spirits, we must be unified. We must be joined as one. And as she says that, these two little lights pop up on either side of the typewriter. Little candles. There were not candles there before. And they're illuminating the typewriter in this kind of soft glow, but they were definitely not there before. And she closes her eyes and she inhales deeply and she says, spirits, speak to us tonight. It is your night to walk among us and to speak to those who you love. Give us your messages through me, your willing vessel. And the lights all kind of flicker around the room, and it gets really cold in here. About 5 degrees colder than it was even a minute ago. It's almost frigid how cold you suddenly feel. And Pastor, you feel a little ripple up your spine, just uncomfortable feeling. Something brushes past your shoulders. And Madame Mina tightens her grip slightly and says, is there an Al among us tonight? Penelope wishes to speak to Al. And there's a silence, cold silence across the room. And then she opens her mouth and you hear a ruff coming out of her mouth.
Oh my
I'm
God.
trying real hard not to laugh.
Oh God.
Yeah, Gerald was in, like, internally he was going, so is this dog going to speak fucking English or is he going to bark?
And Penelope just leans forward and Dr. Matt has to kind of clutch onto her hand so she doesn't drop it. She goes, oh, Al, darling, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to leave the gate open. That nasty man coming through so fast on his little car. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have done that. She's just bawling. And you hear another arf, arf. And then silence, and Madame Mina says, he forgives you?
Oh my
He knows
God.
it's not your fault.
Desperately trying not to laugh.
Yeah. And Penelope's like, does he really know? Does he really know? Says, yes, he knows it's not your fault. You didn't take your medication that morning. You forget things sometimes. It's all right. And she's, oh, Maddie, it must be true. She knows I didn't take my medication, and that's why I forgot things. Says, Al will be happy on the other side. You need to let him go now. And maybe find someone else to take his place. So, may I? I didn't want to be so disrespectful to my dear little Al. And she's just babbling, says, yes, he says it's all right. And you hear a...
Gerald's going to turn to the pastor and under his breath go, you think the dog knew how to play dead? A valid question.
And you see in the low light, you see Dr. Matt just sort of pulling Penelope back, like, it's all right, darling. He's happy. We can adopt that little pug you liked so much.
Oh
Don't
God, not a
worry."
pug.
And Nick, the socialite, is actually looking a little bit more interested. She's kind of sat up more in her chair, and she's just cocked her head, and she's looking at Madame Mina. Like, huh.
She's gonna bark next.
Yeah, she is. I hope she does. Hate her.
If the night goes well, yes, she will.
Ha! Ba-dun-dun-dun.
And she's like, oh, I've never heard a dog in one of these before. I didn't know you could do that. Cool.
I hate her.
And
so much.
Madame Mina takes in a deep breath and says, you can go now, Al. Be free.
Dr. Holliday is going to throw a look, because she's holding the socialite's hand, so she's going to throw a look over this girl and look directly at Alexander. I keep envisioning my brother and I in like really serious situations where one of us starts laughing and it gets really contagious, and like it's really like it's dangerous. Like you're being a funeral and it's like, this isn't funny, but he's laughing. So it's that type of play that she's throwing across the room. Alex, like, stop it. She's not saying it as much as she's mouthing it, like, stop it, stop it, stop it.
I could imagine that Harkness's cheeks up here just in the top are much redder than they used to be. Yeah. And because he has a hold of one of Dr. Waite's hands, he is probably very fervently just shaking her hand, trying to use her to hold on to his own grasp of his humor, because it would be rude to laugh.
Mm-hmm.
But he at the same time, he has so many questions like, does Madame Mina know what kind of dog it is? Right? Like he wants to just ask a ton of questions about what's just happened here. And he's trying to weigh that with obviously with Penelope's deep-seated belief that she just spoke to her dead dog.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good. He will return the look and desperately look at the floor, do something.
Stop it. Stop it.
I want to know if the pastor's reacting at all to this, because you've just got this spiritualist who was barking.
Listen, I didn't write anything down for this.
You don't have anything about the spirit of speaking to the spirits of dogs?
Oh my
No.
God.
I've got all kinds of stuff for like regular spirits, but nothing for a fucking dog.
That feels like a sand check. I'm kidding.
You know, we learn, we adapt, and we get better for next time. That's all you can do.
Right?
That's all you can do.
I can tell you there's nothing about the spirits of dogs in the Bible.
So I'm just going to shake my head, because it's not hard to believe that when this individual was talking about their dog before, that information wasn't given beforehand.
Absolutely. And, the butler was in here when she mentioned the poodle, so, So Madame Mina has taken in another deep breath and exhaled, and all of you give me a listen roll.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no.
Uh-oh.
Fail. Oh.
For better or for
Professor.
worse.
Yeah, Professor's gotten extreme over here. Okay, so the Professor is the only one who hears this. As Madame Mina takes in a deep breath and exhales, Professor, you swear you hear voices all around the room, just whispering, muttering, in a bunch of different languages. Some of them you recognize. You hear Spanish as one of them. You think you hear Latin There's French, German, and some kind of Slavic language, and a few other languages that are just being whispered all around the room.
Well, German I
filling your
understand,
ears.
and speak fairly well. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll try not to let my brain fill in the gaps between what the German speakers are speaking. But like I saw candles appear where there were not candles before, and I don't know if necessarily I was looking at the table at that time. So I'll allow myself a bit of, we'll say, professional skepticism when it comes to the whispers in the back of the room.
So are you allowing yourself to understand the German?
Yeah, well, I think he's curious enough to know what it's saying.
Mm-hmm. So with an extreme, I'm not going to make you roll language for this. So you hear this sonorous German undercurrent here to some of these voices, and you hear the master is coming. Open the way. The master is coming. Open the way.
My eyes narrow, and I'll look over at Mina, and it's probably something that a few people close to me might see, that he hears something. He turns his head and hears something, and then looks back at the table where the typewriter is, almost like there is something very specific that's going to happen there, and he's waiting for it to happen now.
And so Madame Mina draws herself up into perfect posture. Back is ramrod straight. And you can all see her eyes are kind of glinting softly in the candlelight. They appear to have gone completely black.
Oof.
And she's saying in what first starts off as a soft whiff to you, Professor, just sort of blends in with the other whispers that are filling the room. But it gets louder and takes over them. You say, Walter, my love, we are here. Speak to us. We seek the spirits beyond. We wish to contact those beyond. Walter, bring them to us. Speak to us, my love. And her eyes are getting blacker and blacker in her face. And you can hear, all of you now can hear these whispers filling the room. You don't understand the language that's being spoken, all these different languages filling your head, but it is getting loud and louder and louder until it's almost like the voices are screaming in your ears. And I'd like a sanity roll for the voices and the black eyes and all of that, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Dr. Holliday
Okay.
got a hard success. The one thing she definitely wants to do as this crescendo of whispers is happening, she wants to double down on that grip on the Bambi. She is not going to
Okay.
fuck this up for us. If she spooks, if she fleet, whatever it is, she's doubling down on that grip like a parent going like, sit down, you bet not.
All right. So
all the
you
boys,
type.
all the boys failed.
Okay.
Did they all
so...
fail?
Yeah, they did.
Oh, Jesus.
No, I got it. I succeeded.
Oh, did you?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, I was looking at your listen roll. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh.
So those of you who succeeded, you lose 1.
Okay.
Gerald, you're gonna lose 3. And Professor, my dice,
Come on,
you're
Alexander.
gonna lose 2 points.
Woo.
As it's just so loud, and just her eyes, and she's been holding on to hands, so you don't see how she could have slipped in contact lenses or dropped anything into her eyes. Like, Professor, you've seen people secretively drop something like herbal into their eyes to change the color. She was holding on to people's hands. How could she have done that? And it's just getting building and building and building in this room. And then you can feel a rush of wind at your backs. Cold, frigid wind. And it's rushing all around this circle towards the typewriter. You can all feel it whoosh past you. And there's a slight greenish glow around the typewriter. And then you hear a click, clack, click, clack as the typewriter keys begin to move. And you see on the paper, these keys are moving on their own. It says, "Hello, Mina. This is Walter." And Madame Mina smiles. It's almost transformative, this angelic smile on her face. And she says, "Welcome, Walter. What do you have for us tonight?" And there's a click, clack, click, clack. Subterfuge is here. Click, clack, unbeliever. Click, clack, click, clack. False pretenses. And Madame Mina looks around the room. Well, now that's very upsetting. Is anyone here under false pretenses?
I mean, it's an abrupt look to the girl's hand she's holding, because that's the only person it could be.
Nick looks around, kind of bored, says, "I don't know. Him, maybe." She looks at you, Gerald. "He's a journalist." "Yeah, I read."
But I'm not here under false pretenses, and I have said I'm a journalist.
"But why are you here?"
I have a very minor amount of faith in this. But if I can see something that's true, that faith might become increased. I'm here out of curiosity more than anything else.
And the girl kind of looks at you and tilts her head. Huh.
Yeah, she is annoying.
And then there's a
Right here,
click,
Bucho, right here.
click, clack, click, clack, ding, as the typewriter moves. "Detective, detective," and then it starts getting louder. "Detective."
Yes.
Fake.
Hey, I'm doing a job. I'm here to represent somebody who wishes to remain nameless.
Click, clack, click, clack. "She's not here."
Just a subtle nod.
And then there's another furious clicking of the keys. And those of you who are closest to the typewriter, so Professor and Gerald, it looks like some of the keys are getting a little bit stuck. Like they have to kind of shake a little bit, like maybe there's something sticky on them. And it takes a second for them to pop back up again and actually type. And you see, "Pastor, Pastor, your God is false." And then there's a clicking sound from the typewriter, and you swear it's like the typewriter is laughing. Just this mechanical clicking sound. "False God, false God, false God."
Jesus.
Him too.
Sorry. That was brilliant, Rina.
I mean, Gerald is sufficiently freaked the fuck out right now. Not just because of the phrases that are coming out, but because the detective answered in a logical way, and we still haven't seen her touch the keys. So Gerald is moving from no faith to, well, this is interesting.
You haven't seen her move. She's been holding on to y'all's hands. The circle hasn't broken. And it's still cold in here, but she hasn't moved. You haven't seen her feet tapping on perhaps one of those little mechanical devices. Her skirt hasn't moved at all, not even in that rush of wind that came around. And as the typewriter is talking to the pastor, Madame Mina says, "Well, Walter, my love, that's hardly nice. Come now, behave." And there's a click, clack. No, don't feel like it.
Put on the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes.
I turn to
Click,
I turn to the father and say, when you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, how improbable, must be true.
Sir Arthur Conan Doyle as Sherlock Holmes.
Click, clack, hack.
But yet he was also a believer in spiritualism as well.
Click, clack, faked. Click, clack.
I think you should tell us about the pastor.
Click, clack.
Allie's face.
What? What you want to know?
Well, I mean, you said somebody is here under false pretenses and is. The only thing you said about her is that she believes in a false god. So.
No God. No God. Lies.
Sure. Okay. How about me? Do you know anything about me?
There's that kind of weird metallic sound from the typewriter, again, almost like it's laughing. And then there's a rapid fire click clack. Share drink. Flask left pocket.
I'm gonna pull my flask out. Share drink. Okay. I'm gonna give the flask to the fucking typewriter.
Are you breaking the circle?
Oh,
Like, didn't technically the circle get broken by him pulling out the flask anyway?
Yeah, I think
Oh.
instinctively, like I would end up breaking the circle.
Okay.
Like I
So
wouldn't even realize I was doing it.
you break the circle to pull the flask out of your pocket and give me a power roll.
Here we go.
Is that everybody?
Oh,
Nope, just
boy.
him.
Okay.
Nope.
Okay, so you feel almost like a punch to your gut, Gerald. It's massive pain. And you look down instinctively. You see your shirt, which is covered in that brandy you spilled earlier. But it looks like there's blood blossoming out from your shirt as if you've been stabbed or shot in the gut.
I'm gonna lift the shirt and feel for the wound.
There's no wound there. And Madame Mina snaps, "Don't break the circle." And she reaches out for your hand.
Okay. I will go back to keeping hands connected.
And you're going to lose 2 points of sanity.
Oof.
For this horrific pain that you cannot get rid of, even though there's no wound there. And you still see blood on your shirt. The rest of you cannot see this. Only he sees this. And the typewriter begins to click, clack, click, clack. And you hear the clock behind you striking 10. This loud grandfather clock. Boing, boing. And the room is getting colder. and you hear this clock striking over and over and over, and the click-clacking of the typewriter is getting louder and louder and louder, and you can feel the cold almost blocking you in. It's like it's freezing you in place. And then there's a sudden whoosh of air, and all of the candles and lights in the room go out, and the clock finishes striking 10, and you're not in the room anymore. You
Well,
are all in a circle holding hands in a void. There is a light above you somewhere. It is cold and dark here. The light is shining down on the typewriter on this little table in the center of you, and it is still click, clack, click, clack, as you are all somewhere else. Shall we take our break there?
ha! Holy shit.
You know I love you, Bridget.
I hate everybody. All right, guys. Cass is going to take a break. We'll see you in 10. Hopefully, the whole screen actually works. We'll see you guys in a little bit. Whew. Now, here's the question of the day. Zoom, can you still hear me? Can anyone check to see if the Twitch can still hear me, though? Okay, so